The following is a presentation on the UFSN network. Welcome to the UFAFL Nation.
Yes, greetings and salutations. It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. Another episode of UFAFL Nation. I am your host, Michael Skrzyniak. So NFL's Week 11 just wrapped up with kind of a dud of a Monday nighter, but we got a big show for you today. We're going to have Andrea Ellis, one of the co-founders of UFF Sports, joining me very shortly. We're going to get into the NFL recap and the UFAFL recap, where we had pretty sure the highest scoring matchup so far through 11 weeks in the UFAFL. Then my stock up and stock down. I'm really not looking forward to talking about stock down. I know Andy Mack's going to have a field day with that one. And then my best bets segment, the Legion have been making me look good recently with my best bets. So I think I'm going to go to them again, but we'll talk about that later on. You guys can find me on Twitter at MichaelSKRZ. The league is also on Twitter. You can find them at the UFAFL. The scouting department, headed by Jamie Thomas, is at UFAFL_scouting. And then if you guys have any questions, you guys can email us at info@uffsports.com. And then there's the website at the bottom of the page if you want to look for any other information as well. Don't forget about the UFAFL Store. We got a lot of cool things happening over there. Sweater weather is here, guys. It's cold. I know last week we had that huge storm, the snowstorm in Edmonton. If you guys watched the Canadian men's soccer team play Mexico, that looked wild. And I know it's still cold over there. You got tumblers, you got water bottles, you got T-shirts, you got a whole bunch of things that you can put any UFAFL logo on. So please head to the store. And yeah, guys, Christmas is only a month away, so some pretty cool gift ideas there. So before we get into the NFL recap and all that good stuff, we're going to bring on, there she is, Andrea Ellis, co-founder of UFF Sports. Andrea, how are you doing today?
Hi, Mike. I'm really great. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. So I wanted to bring you on today because the more I learn about UFF Sports and the origin story, it's very fascinating. So you and 9 other people, they're all co-founders here. I know you're from Ontario. And then I find out that this thing was basically built, created in Saskatchewan. So I just wanted to get your vantage point and how this all came together, how you got involved with UFF Sports.
Yeah, I met Tony, and I decided to move to Saskatchewan, and he was always obsessed with crypto, and he's always obsessed with new business ideas, and he goes to sleep and he wakes up with a new idea. And so this one time he was like, well, and it had to do with crypto kitties. He was following that project, and one of them sold for $170,000 US. And he was like, well, if somebody's going to pay that for a weird graphic of a cat, what would they pay for their favorite athlete in the whole world? So I was like, yeah, I think you're onto something. And then, this crypto kitty was an NFT. And he's like, we can sell NFTs of athletes. I was like, okay, I don't know what that is, but sounds good. And so then he started looking for people to get some seed money going. And I decided to give him some money because I thought he had a good idea. And then he got some of his family members involved, and then some of our coworkers, and then a couple of people that we know through his old company in Saskatchewan.
Very cool. So you were part of the UFAFL startup in Vegas, correct? That must have been a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't know we were going to do that. It was all the brainchild of Kevin Maynard, and he was like, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to go there, and we're going to have a rooftop party, and then and I was just like, what? And, somehow it all came together. We had amazing athletes there celebrating with us. Eric Metcalf was there. We had Nick Lewis, who's being inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame, and Terrence Crawford was there, and Ryan Bugsy Malone, and so many people. And while we were there, we got to meet Derek Stevens, who owns the Circa Hotel, that all of our events. And yeah, it was a crazy time. It was so fun. Andy was there. It was my first time getting to meet him. So in this project, of course, it's online. You hardly ever get to actually meet the people that you're working with. So it was just amazing to meet a lot of the people that we've talked to a million times, but actually get to like see them, give them a hug. So that was an amazing event, and I would love to go back to do another one at the Circa another time.
And then you were also in Ohio with Andy and the boys, right, for the launch of the Legends League?
Yep, it was amazing. We went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we got to have one of the event rooms to ourselves and get all set up. And Garrett Jones was there, Centric, and Gerald Smiley, and of course Andy again, and his Derek Metcalf, and great time. We met the developer of Axis Football, so that was a treat. And he had the game there, and people were testing it out. And Walt Harris was playing Danny's son, and I don't know, it was a really cool thing, and I'm just really glad that I got the chance to go, because not all of the founders are going to all of these things. So thankfully, Tony and I kind of retired from our regular jobs and started doing this full time. So it's been quite fun and quite a blessing.
Well, you guys must be busy right now because, yeah, UFF Sports, like, it's not taking any days off. Like, you have the hockey leagues in mid-swing, the basketball league is mid-swing, and I know you're involved both in, like, you have fantasy teams of both there. But I also wanted to talk about this new, this World Juniors Fantasy League that you guys just, the auction happened, like, not too long ago to this past week. You guys sold 10 teams. Now I was looking at the prices, and when I tell my friends about the prices that these teams sell for, like, their eyebrows raise because there's some serious money being involved. Now I know you're heavy into crypto, but I'm guessing you care more about these teams, the worth in US dollars more so than the crypto side. Can you explain that a little bit more to me?
Well, we transact everything on our platform in Scorecoin. That's the cryptocurrency that we launched in May. And so our whole goal is to make Scorecoin worth a lot. And you always talk about cryptocurrency in relation to its US dollar value. So at this point, it makes more sense for people to bid in a US dollar value, and then they pay in Scorecoin. And I mean, we do anticipate that the value is going to increase quite a lot. So they paid this amount for the team, but if we keep working really hard and make Scorecoin very valuable, then they're actually worth quite a lot more. And yeah, it's funny because you said we're very busy, and yeah, like, we both kind of retired, but we're working a lot more than we ever have before, but it's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I can tell it's busy just because, like, just my phone, the amount that it blows up with these the Telegram chats and everything, and I can only, like, I'm only really involved with the football, so I can only imagine being involved in every other sport possible. So yeah, good on you guys.
It's ridiculous. I have to have my notifications off.
Yes,
my notifications
no,
are always off, but I look at my phone every 3 seconds, so it's fine. I never miss anything. But yeah, otherwise it would be beeping or vibrating every 3 seconds. But
well, Andrea, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know how busy your schedule is. Yeah, the origin story behind UFF Sports is fascinating for a guy who's still learning about this league every day. But yeah, thank you again once again for taking the time, and I hope to talk to you down the road.
Yeah, thank you too, Mike, and thanks for doing these shows. They're awesome.
Once again, I got to thank Andrea Ellis for taking the time to coming on the show. Andrea, you're the first woman to show up on UFAFL Nation, so you got the record there. Thank you once again for taking the time. So let's get into the NFL recap on what was a pretty crazy Week 11. And we're going to start off with Chris Jones, who sacked Dak Prescott 3.5 times, as Dak also threw 2 interceptions, as the Chiefs defense stymies the Cowboys to win their 4th straight game, 19-9. Now, the Chiefs didn't really play particularly well on offense, but they got 2 rushing touchdowns and looked to be back to form, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, the Cowboys, they were missing some players. Like, they didn't have Amari Cooper. He was out with COVID. Left tackle, Tyron Smith, who might actually be the most important player on that Cowboys offense. He misses his third straight game with an ankle injury. They think he might be back this week. And CeeDee Lamb also left the game with concussion symptoms after he battled, like he landed hard, battling for an interception, but his head smacked against the turf. He was out of the game. So because of that, yeah, the Cowboys offense just did not have a good night. Now I expect the Cowboys to bounce back against the Raiders. They're playing this Thanksgiving Thursday. And then the Chiefs now get the bye week to rest up and prepare for that stretch run. They've now lead the AFC West after being in last place just, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. So those teams in the AFC better be scared because the Chiefs look to be back and in form. Second game I want to talk about, speaking of the AFC West, Austin Eckler scores 4 touchdowns, and the Steelers allowed Mike Williams to score a 53-yard touchdown with 2 minutes remaining as the Chargers win a wacky Sunday nighter to keep pace with the Chiefs. Justin Herbert was absolutely incredible in this one, throwing for 382 yards and then adding 90 yards rushing on the ground. The Chargers racked up 500 total yards. Now the Steelers, speaking of it, we were talking about the Cowboys injuries on offense. Steelers have some big injuries on defense. Minkah Fitzpatrick, star safety, was out because of COVID, and defensive end TJ Watt is dealing with knee and hip issues. The Steelers are going to need these guys because I don't think the Steelers offense can carry this team, especially in a loaded AFC North. The Steelers head to Cincy this week in what should be one of the games of the week. And then Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen went off, plus a last-second field goal, lifting the Vikings to a win over their division foe, the Green Bay Packers, and they get back to 500. Now, being a Vikings fan just must be absolutely terrible because they've held a lead of 7 or more points in every game this season, and they're just 5-5. I think they've had 6 or 7 games come down to the last snap, which is pretty incredible. But yeah, watching Kirk Cousins, being a fan of the Vikings, must be really tough. Aaron Rodgers has a toe injury, but despite that, he threw for a season-high 385 yards without the services of Aaron Jones. And now the race for the bye in the NFC just got way more interesting because they fell a game back of the Cardinals, who won their 9th game of the year, defeating the Seahawks. So the Packers are the 2 seed, and now they play the Rams this upcoming Sunday, who are coming off a bye. So that NFC playoff race, I've talked about it before, it's going to be a bloodbath, but you want that number 1 spot, you want that bye week, and the Packers just took a big hit. Now, before we get to the UFAFL recap, we know that we see these graphics every week. Andy McNamara likes to post them. But we wanted to talk about the offensive and defensive player of the week for the top performers for week 11. Now, no surprise on the offensive side of the ball. Jonathan Taylor, an absolute monster. He had 185 yards, and he scored 5 touchdowns against the Bills, guys. 4 rushing touchdowns, 1 through the air. If you had him in your lineup in your home league and you lost, then it's hard to explain because, as you see there, 58.2 fantasy points for the Can West Gladiators. We talked about Jonathan Taylor when he got traded. I remember we did not like that trade at the time, and it's weeks like this explains why, because in dynasty leagues, he might be the number 1 running back going forward. And then defensive player of the week, Kyle Van Noy from the Patriots. The Patriots shut out the Falcons on a disastrous Thursday nighter. It was 25-0 against the Falcons. That was another game to watch. But Kyle Van Noy, 52.5 fantasy points. He had that pick 6 off of Josh Rosen in the 4th quarter. Patriots defense looks incredible. And Patriots actually going to have a really fun game against the Titans this upcoming Sunday. So let's get into the UFAFL recap. And we've talked about them in the past, guys, but the Legion, they just keep winning. They defeated the Stormbreakers for their 7th straight victory. And this was despite Lamar Jackson being a late scratch. So Ravens backup Tyler Huntley comes in, and then they had Devontae Freeman step up. He scored a touchdown in the 4th quarter. So they defeat the Stormbreakers. And what tipped the scales in this one, Devontae Freeman outscores all the Stormbreakers running backs by himself. The Stormbreakers get nothing from the wide receiving core. And the Legion, they keep a 1-game lead in the Madden South. Stormbreakers still have a 2-game lead in the Madden East. Next game I want to talk about, Taylor Heineke outduels Josh Allen. And the running backs carry the Heat Wave in a grueling win over the Gridiron Seals. And the Heat Wave become the 2nd team to double-digit wins in the UFAFL. I haven't done the math on this. Maybe my boy Larry Fisher can help me out. But this was, I think, the highest scoring matchup in the UFAFL this year. So you got to kind of feel for the Seals, who got incredible efforts from their linebacking core this week, but their offense simply couldn't keep up with the Heat Wave. Despite 550 points more than the Tiger Sharks, the Sharks actually take over first place in the Manning East from the Seals, as the Sharks have won 6 games in a row to improve to 8-3. And then Chris Godwin and Mike Williams had big games to help the Empire squeak out a win versus the 77 Angels. This one came down to the wire. These teams are only separated by a couple points after the Sunday night games. But the Empire now 9-2. Not much to say about this one. It was actually a pretty low-scoring affair. But to me, it's just kind of amazing to see what the Empire has done this year. Despite any real contributions from the running back spot and the tight end spot. They get a bye next week, but yeah, there's just a strong team going forward. I don't know if it's the fantasy defense carrying these guys, but look at the team. It's not a whole lot of superstars, but they're getting the job done. So kudos to the Empire. And that leads us to our stock up and stock down segment. And speaking of the Gridiron Seals, I'm going to stick with them because my stock up this week is wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers, Brandon Ayuk. This past week against the Jaguars, he caught 7 catches on all 7 targets, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And if you look at his scoring recently, he's at 20-plus points in 2 of the last 3 weeks. And you might be asking, well, why is he doing so well over the last couple weeks? He is benefiting from the return of George Kittle to that lineup. It's opening things up all over the field. San Francisco's offense has definitely looked better since Kittle has come back. And then you look at their schedule the rest of the way, there's not a whole lot I'm worried about. So they play the Vikings this upcoming week. Then they play Seattle, Cincinnati, the Falcons, the Titans, the Texans, and then week 18 against the Rams. We don't really know about that Rams defense right now. So I just think when you have Deebo Samuel, who's kind of all over the field, opening things up, he was a running back this week. He only had 1 catch, but he's one of the top receivers in the league. You got George Kittle. As long as Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't turn over the ball, and you have a strong running game. Eli Mitchell has been fantastic this year. They have the reemergence of Jeff Wilson Jr., who just came back from injury. And I just really like what the offense of San Francisco is doing. Brandon Ayuk had his stock was really high coming into the season, his second-year player after a really good rookie season. And he just looks like he's back in Kyle Shanahan's good book. So stock up for Brandon Ayuk. Let's get the stock down, guys. And you knew I was going to have to bring up the Tennessee Titans. I got to bring them up in every episode. But their offense is actually in my stock down. And looking at the numbers, so since Derrick Henry's been out, I know they're 2-1, but they're scoring 7 points less a game without Derrick Henry. This past weekend against the worst defense in the league, Ryan Tannehill throws a career worst 4 interceptions. He has 12 interceptions on the season. It seems that he's either forcing the ball to A.J. Brown when he's not supposed to, or because of the injuries to Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, Marcus Johnson, who had 100 yards against the Saints, he gets hurt in the second quarter, and then he's throwing the ball to Nick Westbrook-Akina. He's throwing the ball to Des Fitzpatrick, who was a 4th-round pick, who was cut and re-signed by the Titans. So Tannehill's throwing to a bunch of guys who he has no chemistry with. A.J. Brown in and out of the lineup in that game. Julio's not playing. They don't really have a great pass-catching tight end. So I just think it's just all these injuries with the Titans that are finally catching up to them. They got the Patriots this week, and with the way the Patriots are playing defense, you can't trust any Titans player right now. You can't even trust Tannehill. He might get you a rushing touchdown, but you can't really count on that. You can't count on any of the running backs because they're kind of splitting the workload. So as sad as it is to see, I need the Titans to get to the bye week to get healthy, bring some of these guys back. But until that happens, don't play any of your Titans players. And that leads me to my best bet segment. And after the Legion made me look good last week, they were like a half a point underdog, but they ended up getting the victory. So I'm going to ride with the Legion again, who right now, as we speak, are 61.5 point underdogs to the Heat Wave. So this is a huge matchup in the UFAFL. But I look at the Heat Wave and I look at their roster next week, and they have 3 of their better starters on bye. 2 from the Arizona Cardinals, Christian Kirk and Chandler Jones, who's been an absolute monster. And then plus Mecole Hardman from the Chiefs. And then I look at what the Heat Wave did this week. They're probably not going to get 22 points from Marcus Valdes-Scantling again, or 17 points from the aforementioned Nick Westbrook-Akina. And then I assume the Legion will get Lamar Jackson back this upcoming week, who take on a Browns team that hasn't looked great lately. So because of that, I just think that like the Heat Wave might win, but 61 points is a lot. So I'm going to ride with the Legion again because, yeah, they've been good to me. So why would I, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And that's going to wrap it up for this week of UFAFL Nation. American Thanksgiving is coming up, and there's actually a pretty good slate of games. If you look at the schedule, like it's a lot of teams that are kind of like within the same record of each other. Tampa Bay and Indy is going to be a good game. Like I said, New England, Tennessee is going to be a pretty good game. The Sunday nighter, the Browns and the Ravens should be a pretty fun one. Seattle, Washington, the loser of that's probably out of the playoff race. So, yeah, it should be a fun week of football. You got the Cowboys and Raiders this upcoming Thursday, Bills and the Saints this week. So, to all of our American friends, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football, guys, this week. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.